Hello, my name's Tim. I am the lead developer in Time Moth Games. We are here on my itch page just to see what I've done so far, kind of introduce myself. I've done multiple game jams. I've done a couple pretty big projects. So Orphan Tome Rush to Release is my biggest horror puzzler game that I just released, I believe, last month. And let's see, yes. I've also done a kind of like a demo for another more personal project that I've worked on alone called Trap Crusade, so feel free to check these out. And the rest of the games are just a bunch of game jam games, smaller games that were done in a short period of time. But enough about me, enough about what I've already done. We're here to see what I'm going to do in the future, and we'll see right here in the banner. There's a little teaser for it right here. So, you might be wondering, what do these letters stand for? What do these icons stand for? What does it mean? Well, basically, this new game is called Trapped on the FlipSide. I'm going to go through a few sketches because today we're going to go over the story of the game, some of the gameplay, and some of the the visual aesthetic for the game. So kind of overview of the planning for the project. As the name states, it takes place in the Trapped universe. So that basically means it's a planet based on EDM where the populations are actual EDM genres. So, for example, at this point in the game, there's a genre for dubstep, there's a genre for electro, and there is a population for dubstep, population for electro, and a population for hardcore. Now, during the game, it will take place on the other side of the planet, the flip side of the planet, where it was hit by the event horizon. Now, what that means is, in this universe, half the planet is kind of like habitable, and the other half gets devastated by a natural disaster. Think of a tsunami of stone, or the equivalent, kind of like massive lava flow, magma flow rushing through pretty much the entire half of the planet and wrecking everything at once. And this kind of flips from one half of the planet to the next every 2,500 years, roughly. That being said, a research team has been sent to the flip side. Like, this is very close to the time where the event horizon would actually flip. So the side with the population is actually at risk and is very close to the event horizon. So they sent out a research team to an unknown energy source on the flip side. Throughout the game, you'll be playing as a little spherical robot that's called an adapt orb. So we can see here is a little sketch of this guy. And you'll be joined by 3 of the research team members, one corresponding for each of the main genres of music. Basically, each member not only corresponds for a specific genre, but also corresponds to a specific expertise. So the red team member, the one for dubstep, would be specialized in offensive, weapons, gadgets, explosives, stuff like that. The blue one for hardcore would be more defensive, so shields, barriers, and evasive maneuvers. And the green one for electro would be for mobility, so think dashing, hovering, stuff like that. When your team drills through this massive layer of stone, you'll eventually hit where the source is coming from, and you'll eventually go to or find this massive mechanical robotic ecosystem that was that was dug out and mined out where the event horizon happened. As you explore this environment, you'll discover that this kind of ecosystem has been expanding, drilling through the stone and expanding itself as a mirror image of what used to be there. So you'll see plants, you'll see an AI's attempt at vegetation systems, but also keeping that functionality that keeps this whole mechanical system expanding until, of course, it runs out of power, because its main focus isn't to take the power from that mysterious power source. It's actually imprisoning that source, because the people that used to live there before the event horizon, well, they discovered the source and they freaked out, and they didn't know what to do, so they encapsulated it and basically imprisoned it for the next generations to figure out what to do. The main characters are, of course, the Adapt Orb, the player character, which is like I said, a small spherical robot. He has a few expressions. Think like R2-D2 or that spherical robot from the newer Star Wars. Kind of like beeping and booping. And we'll go into why it's called an Adapt Orb when we hit the gameplay. We have the red member, who is the average-height rookie with a caring heart, part of Dubstep, and basically she'll provide the offensive equipment and tools throughout the game. Her personality is she's eager, she's gullible, curious, and she doesn't know too much about the history and the lore of the planet, so she's kind of like the fresh member off the block. Then we have the green member, who is the mobility member, who is always eager to go out there, explore new places, and discover new things. So they really enjoy traveling and discovering interesting stuff about the planet, and going to the flip side and researching is right up their alley. That also comes with their personality of almost being too excited to get out there, unable to stop themselves, and being a bit restless. And the blue member is the more professional one, the strict one, the defensive member, part of core, or hardcore. They're used to these situations. They want to protect everyone as much as they can. And not only do we have the team members for the research team, the system and the power source that's being imprisoned are actually their own characters as well. They'll take a pretty big part in the narrative of this game. So going over them briefly, the OA system, or the Overcome Annihilation system, is basically the defense system that is defending the prison, that is encapsulating the power source, known as luminescence, and is also in charge of expanding, in charge of creating that ecosystem, creating like defense fields and keeping itself powered for as long as it can. Now you'll realize that as you're playing the game, that it has not been powered for a very long time. It ran out of resources quite a while ago. So this allowed the luminescence to kind of break through a tiny bit. And to go over the luminescence, it's basically an omnipotent source of energy. It holds memories, it has a decent enough intelligence, but it doesn't have a corporeal form. So that'll be messing with you as you're playing the game, and with the other members throughout the narrative of the game. So you'll see this massive sphere at the top here is held up by these walls here. So the sphere of where the system took over, kind of like mined out, will be separated into 4 sections, and each section will have a bunch of components, mechanical parts, walls, rooms, and other stuff that, as the player, you'll be able to roam through. Once you start the game, the 3 main essences from your team members has somehow been spread out throughout the entire system, rejuvenating the system that was lifeless for so long, giving it power, giving it energy, spreading the red, green, and blue essence throughout the entire system. So the system is just recognizing these energies as a power source and just using them as for the bare essentials. Your job as the Adapt Orb of the team, going through this ecosystem, is to spread this energy to the actual components that are in the ecosystem. So there are kind of totems of power, little landmarks, connectors that you could go plug into and spread the energy that way. There will be a ton of puzzles, a ton of gameplay, platforming, combat. There's a ton of gameplay that will push you to spread that energy throughout the game environment. To spread the energy, first you need to take it and bring it with you to where you want to spread it to. They'll all play a role as you play the game. Taking a quick look at this, you'll see it is a third-person game with ball controls. If you're familiar with my previous game, if we look here, Just Desserts, we also did a similar way to play in that game as well. I can guarantee this new game will have better controls than in this game, because Just Desserts ended up being more frustrating than it needed to be. Anyways, back on track. Let's jump into some gameplay, shall we? So, not only do we have documentation, but I also have some gameplay to show you guys. We got a few mechanics up and running. So, keep in mind this is very, very early stages in the game, so a lot of things don't look quite as nice as they will, but they work just as well for now. So here we got our little ball guy, the adaptor that we'll be playing as. As you can tell, we got some rolling action, ball physics, as you might expect from a ball. The white bar behind him is actually his health. So let's say I go into the magenta pool here. Any magenta energy will actually damage me. So you'll see my bar gets lowered. Simple health mechanics. But where the interesting stuff happens is these three here. Now this is the energy that we want to spread. So if we touch it, we'll be filled up with these two bars on either side. Now that's kind of our energy bar. Think of a mana system or like a battery, something along those lines. And it works for each one of the colors. So if I go here, and it charges as long as I stay in the pool. So for example, let's say I'm going to be green for now. You'll see that I have these things in front of me here. We're going to get into those in just a moment. I want to show you these right here. These will be the totems that you need to spread the energy to. These will act kind of like the what are they called? The flagpoles in the Mario games. So your end goal is to get to these totems while you are energized with one of the three colors. Once this happens, if you go into the connector, you'll see that now I have the green kind of like light, or the green source is now powered. Keep in mind, very basic visuals just to demonstrate. So same thing over here. If I go over here, do the same thing. Now keep in mind, some of the gameplay of the game will prevent you from getting to them as you would want to, unless you have the proper abilities or the proper skill to get there. So let's say after you energize these with as many colors as you want, you'll get a score for each color that you spread to these totems. That color's score will be increased. Now the score will be important later down the line, but for now all you need to know is these totems, once they're powered with the correct sequence, can also open doors. So this block right here is, pretend it's a door that is blocking you from progressing. If I do the right combination of colors, or activate the right combination of colors on the totems, then the door may open. So for this demonstration, the correct combination that would eventually actually be linked visually through like a wire that is the same color connecting to the door, it would be, this one needs to be red and this one needs to be green and blue. So if I simply go here, boom, we got the blue and the green and the red from the other one, and the door opens. So this will be the kind of core progression through the game. You'll be unlocking doors, discovering new areas, finding new things, and throughout the game you'll find what these are would be the actual equipment, parts of the suits and the armors of your research team. So let's say I find one of each throughout the gameplay, wherever they end up being after whatever challenge they end up being connected to, and you'll see that I still can't do anything to get these equipments to work. What I need to do is go to these landmarks. Now by going in this little connector thing, I'm now able to connect to the energy of that team member, not only getting access to having them integrate their piece of armor with the adapter, with the player character, but also by connecting through this, I'll be able to communicate with the team members wherever they are, because at the start of the game, you lose them. You're just thrown into the environment alone. So by reconnecting the totems, by reconnecting through the landmarks, you'll be able to listen in to what the team members are saying, and at the landmarks even communicate with them, see what's going on, see where you need to go next, and go throughout the progression of the story, listening in on what they're talking about. So once again, if I go to this landmark here, you'll see that I got the first one here, and the other ones are still a mystery because they're still laying around somewhere. So let's say I want to get all the green ones. So we got magnetize, hover, and grapple warp. You can you could try to guess what those mean down the line. Sadly, none of the abilities actually work at the moment, but I'm scrolling through and you'll see that the surrounding of my little character changes accordingly. In essence, that'll be the core gameplay of the game. Your goal would be to spread the energy throughout the system, energize these totems, find these landmarks, find the equipment to allow you to spread the energy even more, until the big goal is to find each one of the members. Wherever they are, wherever they may be, you need to find them and get the heck out of there or figure out what's going on. So as you're progressing through the game, as you're unlocking more doors, as you're spreading the energy, the system will actually improve its defensive capabilities, so it'll have more turrets, more enemy spheres that'll be sent at you, more dangers, more threats that you'll need to overcome, because the system is just a simple defense AI. Think of a firewall trying to protect what it's programmed to protect. And as that's happening, the energy source, the luminescence that's being captivated, its shell is actually cracking with each totem that you power up. So coming back to this one, you'll see this is kind of like a little sketch for the first appearance, the kind of intro of the game, where the team drills into one of these dug up tunnels that was dug up by this massive robotic sphere. And you exit here, there'll be a tutorial section until you get to the massive wall of the mechanical ecosystem, the kind of prison bunker. Here's a couple of the sketches for, let's say, one of the equipments, as you saw them kind of hover around the player sphere. Here's a bit of an early look on those that energy bar that I showed you guys in the prototype. Originally, I wanted it to be kind of like a hologram around the sphere, but I think I ended up with something interesting. If we go to this image, once again, we have the environment of the game that are a very early concept of it. Here's a visual concept for the totems, the kind of flagpoles with each one of the colors, the little connector that you go into to charge it up, and how it charges up. Here are some little sketches of the landmarks, of course keeping to their color, keeping to their shape. I'll go into explaining that a bit more once we get to the characters and the environment. And here are other ways you could get more score for your color. I'll go over this a tiny bit. So this would be the entire layout of the games, cut up into 4 sections with the tutorial tunnel down here. And each section will contain one of the members. So that's as far as I'll go with that image. And for the gameplay, the environment will be sectioned off into sections with smaller rooms in each section, with their own challenges, their own totem to get to, and their own doors that'll lead to kind of branching paths or a linear path that just gets progressively challenging. And here we have a little example of how big the OA system started, so roughly 3 meters, and over the 2,000 roughly years of its existence, it expanded to 3 times the size of a football field. Here we have the mood boards for not only the characters but the environment. For the aesthetic of the characters, compared to, or in regards to their essence color, their music genre, they will have a color and a shape that they need to adhere to. So for the dubstep genre, it would be red, and it would be mostly triangular, sharp-edged, and pointed attributes to the character design. We're going for a space suit type of design because of the fact that they don't know how the air quality is on the flip side of the planet, so they want to be cautious. With a bunch of trinkets, a bunch of maybe explosive essence bottles, tools, weapons, you name it, grenades. She's got it all. And a quite kind of bulky attire to her, so very fluffy, very bulky in terms of her outfit design. So you'll see that this character design is quite a pretty good inspiration. And we got a fairly decent look at her personality. She's gullible, charming. She's hasn't been through too much rough stuff, so she's very caring, bubbly, and curious. And she really likes to take care of the adaptor, the player character. Going on to the next character, we got the green/teal character. They are from Electro, and the shape for that they adhere to would be a half circle, like a hemisphere. They have all sorts of movement-based equipment, so kind of like climbing gear, jumper boots, some maps, and holographic displays, because they really like to keep track of where they're going, where they are. They are quite pretty much the navigator of the group, and wants to get everyone wherever they need to be the most efficient way possible. They are short, quite slim, and basically very outgoing and very forward when it comes to making progress or going somewhere. Next character is the character from Core. Now, this is the more serious one, the more kind of like defensive one. So you'll see that he has shield, he has maybe a bit bulkier armor. The shape for Core is a square, so blue square. So it's very edged off, very sharp, very professional looking attire, armor plated, and let's say the equipment and the abilities or the tools are built into the suit, so it's still slick, very slim, and you can tell that the character is anthropomorphic, so they might have animalistic attributes, some fur covering their body. As for the species, we're unsure as to where we're going to go for it, but we might go for something completely original for this IP. So those are the three characters that we're going to have throughout the game. We already have a few people working on some of the designs for the characters, so shout out to you guys, you know who you are. I'm super excited to get into it. Let's get into the environment. Actually, I'll start with this environment. We'll get to the previous one in just a moment. So, you'll see that this environment here is quite industrial, run down, kind of like a power plant, like a nuclear power plant. Think Chernobyl, or like the dome that they put over Chernobyl to secure it. The massive sky hole here would be a good representation of where the system dug out. So it dug out in a big enough radius that there's actually access to the sky above it. Or this is the way that the system digs out to expand its territory. So it's very industrial, like concrete. It's got pipes to transport its miner bots. It's got wires and components and things all spread out through the place. It created walls, buildings, and rooms to kind of like section off the areas, but also in a way to attempt to recreate what it knows of the previous population. So very straight, square buildings, with its own mechanical components. Now, with that comes the actual components that it spreads around. The components that it spreads have become a bit warped, a bit wonky, a bit more on the uncanny side, the typical thing that we would see from actual AI generated imagery nowadays. Now, these components try to mimic nature as it was. So you'll see trees with like piping going around, foliage that's actually just a bunch of pieces of plastic or metal, a bunch of things that, if squinted at, look like a normal environment, but actually are strictly made out of metallic pieces. Not only do these components spread throughout the system and connect to each other through vines of wires, but they also serve as the core components to spread the energy of the three team members. So the red, the green, and the blue, keeping that RGB theme. And you'll see throughout the game, each color and the environment around where that color and that energy has been spread will adhere to that color's design. So the red would be triangular, sharp, and very vibrant. The green would be kind of like half circle, a bit more smooth, a bit more rounded, and like edged off in some way. Think flower petals, for example. And the blue energy would be squared off, very symmetrical, very like flat edged, and with square faces. These two environments will blend together, but they are actually threatened by the third one. Now you'll see a very distinct inspiration for this. This is actually inspired by Kyoto in Japan, and their style of less is more, in a way, where actually having everything desaturated makes the style stand out more. The way that this style is integrated into the previous style, because it's very different from the industrial, mechanical, robotic style, is that anywhere that is touched by rays of light that are coming from that imprisoned energy source, rays of light that come through the cracks, will kind of modify that area into this style, kind of like changing it anatomically. Think how the sun weathers something if it was left in the sun for multiple months. So instead of just making it lighter, in this case, it'll actually transform it into desaturated wood with darker borders and a very kind of like desaturated aesthetic. And that'll kind of play a role in the story of the game. So our art team will have a blast going through not only the environments, but the characters as well. The audio of the game will, of course, since it's based on the Trapped universe and it has a heavy influence on EDM, we'll be using EDM samples based on the energy that is present. So either dubstep, electro, or hardcore samples throughout the game. So that will be a very interesting, very unique approach to the sound design. It is a similar sound design, actually, if we go here, similar sound design that I took when creating Trapped Crusade. So if you want a good example of how I integrated EDM samples and design into a living environment, go ahead and play the demo, because it's free and it's right there, and it's in the same universe, which is pretty cool. But also, throughout the game, all three of the characters will be fully voice acted. And that's something I want to hold to heart, because it will be very important that they are throughout the game, because a lot of the story is told through them interacting with each other, speaking to each other, and reacting to the events that happen in the game, that happen to them. Not only will it be pretty cool to have voice acted characters, but it'll also be a non-intrusive way to have them talk about the story or have them discuss amongst each other without necessarily interrupting the player unless they want to listen. And of course, might as well go over the kind of teaser little icons here. You might have guessed if you watch the stream or if you watch the devlog that the little guy here is the actual player character, the Adaptorb. This here represents the 3 genres and their shapes and their color as the RGB in the background. And this right here is the light from the massive energy source that starts this whole thing in the first place. The energy source that attracts the research team, the luminescence. So to conclude, I hope you guys liked the first devlog of Trapped on the FlipSide. Hopefully I didn't take too long going through everything I wanted to show off, the story, some of the gameplay, and the visual aesthetic that our art team is gonna go for. And I hope to get to see you guys in the next streams or so, the next devlogs. Hopefully we'll be able to grow this into more of a series as the progression or the production of the game goes along. I'll be doing another stream, I believe, either next week or the week after, depending on how much progress we have, depending on if we have anything from the artists, which would be super cool. And to top everything off, feel free to subscribe, share, like, try out any of the games that I've made previously. They are all free and they're all pretty interesting, and they're all there for you guys to try out. One more thing I would like to say is this new game will take some gameplay elements from almost every single one of my previous games. So you already saw the ball physics / character from Just Desserts. We'll have the progression or the kind of challenges or the goals that you might see in Anarchy. We'll have some of the narrative as like in Smart, but actually voice acted. And there's a couple other things that I forgot to, or that I haven't mentioned yet that come from other games as well. There's a bit from here and a lot from here because, of course, it's in the same universe, but this game takes place 2,000 years before this one. So yeah, I have been Tim from Time Moth Games, leader on this project. Have a great day. I hope you guys have a great day, and see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.